All right, we're going to start with our favorite CNN panelists from the Abby Phillips show, which they should rename that to be Abby Phillips and Scott Jennings, because Scott, the way Scott just be roasting these people he needs his own show, and it's a damn travesty he hasn't been given his own show. I hope that I mean, I don't know if Scott could get his own show though, because he'd have nothing but conservatives on there. But I don't think
I don't see any
there. Yeah, that's what I was
not seeing it.
Yeah, no liberals would come on there. The only reason Abby trends is because of Scott. So, but let me get this queued up.
But unit cohesion, and that's exactly the same kind of argument that they made against integrating the military when Harry Truman did it. I'm sorry, it's the same argument. It's the same.
I mean, is she wrong about that? I mean, she is right about that.
People did not want to serve
I'm aware.
White people didn't want to serve black people because of unit cohesion. So now you're saying gay people.
Can I just? We only have a couple seconds. Sure, Michael. I see that you're frustrated that she made that argument, but is she wrong that unit cohesion was used as an excuse to keep the military segregated for a long time?
I think we should,
and also don't ask, don't tell when it comes to discriminating against gay and lesbian people.
We should focus on the issue at hand. That's what I think.
Same argument.
But no, we should focus on the issue at hand. I don't know why we keep going to bringing up race. Let's just focus on the issue at hand.
Look, it's race.
You hold on. I gotta stop this because this is what irritates me the most when we have these discussions. I mean, not us per se, but when you get CNN and you get people that are not black, they easily throw around the race card when it comes to like any type of diversity type of issue. And so this little, I don't know who this chick is, but that's Michael. That's actually Jamel Hill over there. There's actually another take she had on here, but when it comes to like just having these discussions, it's ridiculous that only Shermichael has to have this conversation. Jamel Hill should have jumped in there. Jamel Hill should have been like, look, I agree with Shermichael, regardless of where they stand at on political. You should not be throwing in black people whenever you want to talk about any other type of social issue. It's like the laziest argument, and they never find a good way to like describe it, or at least when you compare these two, these like race and then you got sex, those aren't a one-to-one comparison. And so that's why I don't understand why Jamel Hill's not jumping in there. You got Abby in there trying to defend it, debate it. I'm like, that's not a good conversation. I don't know who's in her head telling her that, but that's not a good correlation. That's the word I was looking for, correlation.
Yeah, they take these roundabout approaches and try to make everybody else's struggles compared to black people's struggles. No, it don't work like that. So the United States is a melting pot. You got different ideologies, you got different groups of people, different concepts, precepts, etc. Yeah. Just be comfortable with your differences. I have no idea why race was brought into this conversation and talking about transgender people joining the military. Not related at all. I can't control the color of my skin or my race. I don't care what anybody says. It's a choice. You decided you were in the wrong body. For some reason, you thought it was a good idea, or your parents thought it was a good idea for you to go through all these therapies that alter your body, all these hormone therapies that alter your body. And we're slowly starting to see data that shows it's causing problems later on in life, right?
That's true.
So I don't understand what any of that has to do with being black. For some reason, they like to, and again, I said this last week,
liberals.
They rely on the fact that we are an emotional group of people, and they used to be able to put those batteries in our back to get us to act and do something. Shermichael wasn't going for it. Jamel just kind of sat there. I didn't know what position she was going to take on this, but I was kind of surprised at her inactivity in this particular conversation.
Right. Let me get this.
Sexual orientation. We've seen this twice, right? In two major junctures for the military. I'm just wondering if she is drawing parallels here between the arguments that are being made.
You see that look? Again, and Abby is black, so Abby should be like, look, whatever that chick's name, that's not a good correlation. Find something else. Do not use black people to make this argument, though. That's what she should have been saying. Jamel Hill should have been jumping in there like, hey, and Shermichael's like, man, he probably got reprimanded for that outburst that we discussed last week, though. But this is another example of, they're trying to make this guy go crazy on here, and he's not crazy.
Maintain this policy.
No, I
Do you
reject
think that
those
she's wrong?
parallels. That's
Why?
my answer. I reject the parallels. I think they're ludicrous parallels.
Do you feel
Okay, so that conversation. Okay, so essentially they're talking about how Trump has banned transgendered soldiers. And so I actually don't have an issue with how he's going about doing with it, because what we've been seeing is that if you are trans, you require more medical treatment. And so if somebody has, and I think this is a good parallel, if you have asthma and if you have a certain type of asthma, you cannot serve. So I can only imagine if you're trans, you're getting all those hormones and whatever whatever additional things you need to keep yourself or keep your body in a state of femininity or whatever. You're going to need more medicine. That stuff costs more money. That costs the military. I know the military has a crazy budget though, but when it comes to like serving, you just got to be able to be fit and have good eyesight and, IQ. But it should not come down to if you need hormone medication to serve, you can't serve. But I don't know what the big deal is. But like I said, if you have asthma, you have the severe asthma, you can't serve either.
Yeah, and the precept of this is they're trying to cut unnecessary expenses from the federal government, which in essence is saving taxpayers money. We talked about the hormone treatments, but there's also additional therapies they have to go through. They have to sit and talk to all these therapists that kind of coach them into transitioning, and those are extra expenses too. This isn't much different than what's happening in sports. If you tested before an event and you have a certain amount of testosterone or your estrogen levels are at a certain level and DHEA and everything like that, you're disqualified. It's pretty much the same concept.
Yeah.
And I think what taxpayers have sent a clear message with this last election that I need you to cut down some of this unnecessary spending and ease our tax burdens. And surface level, it looks like that's what's happening here.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with them like having the conversation out loud though, but you can't be having a conversation to where you're making this argument about trans people being booted from the army. That's not what's happening. If you need medication, they are making changes to where you at the end of the day, they want you to be able to be fit to be able to build serve. And over the last 4 years, we've seen a decline in military service. And so for us, we're kind of aged out of that. So we're not going to be going or getting drafted into the military. But when it comes to like trying to get new enlistments, new recruitments, I don't know if you saw I don't want to say it was the latest, but the military or the army had a video out there where it wasn't even, honestly, I don't think it was even like a masculine video. It was like one of those where it was definitely feminized. And I don't know what I can kind of guess what target audience they're looking for, but that's not the target audience that they need to serve in the military. That's the issue. So for people to think that, this is a good thing, or for people to think that's a terrible thing, I got another thing for them. Like, are you going to serve? Are you going to enlist? Are you going to have your family enlist? No. So we got to have the right people in the military, not people that need medication or they need special, what do you call it, accommodations to be able to serve. That's what it comes down to it. So, I'm glad they, pointed it out though. But, again, if you need to talk to a therapist or you got to get meds, you can't serve.
Also, for the record, Pete Hegseth, and let me call this out too. This is the most transparent that I've seen a president and his cabinet. Like every week, I'm on Forbes. I follow Forbes on YouTube. They'll sit with this is the cabinet and the president, not the press secretary. This is actually the president and his cabinet. They sit and they answer questions for 2 to 3 hours once a week.
Yeah.
And this was one of the things that came up, and that's exactly how they spun it. They spun it as, we're not banning them per se, but what we're saying is we're no longer going to support all of these unnecessary things that these shots, these testosterone shots, estrogen blockers, etc.
Yeah.
That being said, Pete Hegseth did announce just earlier this week that military recruitment is up despite all of this. So all I care about is the results, man. And again, I take my feelings out of this. I know it's a lot of people don't, but I do. What are the results? If military is up, recruitment is up. And this is just after just 2 years ago, the Defense Department was complaining about how fat people were. And how fat they were was disqualifying them for military service.
Yeah.
And how unhealthy this country was. So now we're seeing this rise in recruits, and they're getting rid of all these DEI programs and making it more merit-based. That's telling me that you're getting the results. You're giving the people what they want. Now more people want to fight.
Yeah. And also, I remember seeing something that they're going to reduce the number of generals they have in the in the army as well, in the military as well too. So yeah, they're definitely making changes. I'm glad to see changes are being made. I'm glad they're being aggressive. I'm glad Trump isn't, backing down and standing on what he ran on his platform. And CNN, as much as they try, they're trying to make this into something that it really isn't. So I wish Michael had actually pointed out that this is. I mean, he did his best to try to point out like this has nothing to do with race. So stop trying to make the equivalency. But had he just pushed back on like the whole asthma, or maybe you got poor vision. Actually, if you got poor vision, you got to wear glasses. You don't wear corrective lenses, you ain't getting in. So, you muted.
My bad. I don't know how him or Scott Jennings do it, because it just seems like it's like arguing with a brick wall. And Abby doesn't make it any better. She keeps showing her bias. She's not moderating. She's just agreeing with the left. I don't know how they do it. Every week they just stand 10 toes down. They stand on their points, and they essentially out debate these people. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But again, you're getting the results that you wanted. So
Exactly.
end of story.
Yep.
End of story.
All right. We are going to the next topic.